As we say every week, the class is in memory of Jared Orchen. Today we're going to learn about Chanukah. The Talmud, when it speaks about Chanukah, the Talmud is asking, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? That before we ask the question from the Talmud, we will speak about what is Chanukah. Chanukah was a war between the Jews and the Syrian Greeks. The war was not so much, the Greeks did not want to destroy the Jewish people per se. They wanted to assimilate the Jewish people. If we know, we have two rabbinic holidays, Chanukah and Purim. All the other holidays were from the Bible. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shavuos, Pesach, it's all in the Bible. Chanukah and Purim are two rabbinic holidays based for two miracles that the Jewish people had. Purim, by Haman, we were almost annihilated, and then Chanukah. What's the difference in two holidays? Purim, they wanted to destroy the Jews, the body. They wanted to get rid of the Jews. Chanukah, they didn't want to destroy the body of the Jew. Chanukah, they wanted to assimilate us. They wanted there were a lot of Jews who joined the Greeks. They became Hellenists. They liked the culture. They say something like 40% who Jews were on their side. And they wanted the Jews, they couldn't stand this religiousness of the Jews. The believing God. What especially they couldn't stand? The mitzvahs that do not make sense. They are above logic. We say in the Al Nisim is a prayer that we say every day in the prayer, in the Amidah during Chanukah. We say there that they wanted to make us forget the Torah. But the language that it's used there, Lashkicham Toratecha, to make us forget the Torah of God. What does this mean? They didn't mind that we do things that make sense. Helping the sick, sure. Visiting the sick, yeah. Burying the dead, yeah. Volunteering, beautiful. Tikkun Olam, amazing. But when it comes to mitzvahs that don't make sense, what is this with you guys? You're a logical nation. You're the smartest people. You're all Nobel Peace Prize winners. What's wrong with you? What suddenly you're doing things that don't make sense? Like Brit Milah, circumcision. Why are you doing it? It doesn't make sense. The mitzvahs, the laws the mitzvahs that the Greeks outlaw were mitzvahs that don't make sense. Wherever it's a mitzvah that you cannot convince me why you're doing it, craziness, unacceptable. You're believing in something invisible, a God that it's there, we cannot see it, but God told us, this they couldn't handle. Then they were fighting against the spirituality of the Jew, against the faith that the Jewish people have in God. That's what they wanted to destroy. That was the whole fight between the Greeks and the Jews. And therefore, Purim, how we celebrate Purim? With food. It's a big food holiday. There is a Purim meal and there is Shalach Mones. The main thing is food. Why? Because they wanted to destroy the body of the Jew. The physical side of the Jew. Chanukah, they wanted to destroy the spirit of the Jew. The soul of the Jew. How we celebrate Chanukah? With oil. What's oil? Oil represents the neshama, the soul of the Jewish person. What's oil? Oil, when you look on the olive, you don't see the oil. You see olive inside here, deep down, there is hidden the oil. You have to squeeze very hard to get the oil out. Oil represents the inside of the Jew, the soul of the person, and that's what they wanted to destroy. They wanted to destroy the soul of the Jewish person, the connection with God, the purity, something that's connected with God. That's why we see something very interesting. Then what's what's the holiday of Hanukkah? Because of this, they started a war. Because they made Jews, you're not allowed to have a bris. You're not allowed to keep Shabbat. Why Shabbat? Shabbat is a covenant between God and the Jewish people. It's called a bris, a covenant. Like a Brit Milah is a covenant, Shabbat is a covenant. And there is one more mitzvah is considered a covenant.
Rosh Chodesh.
Tefillin.
Yeah.
I thought they allowed
the three.
The tefillin is a covenant, yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant what they outlawed, though.
I thought it was kashrut that they allowed.
I don't think they allowed kashrut. They allowed all the laws. Anything that points towards a connection to God, that you do above logic. If you do it above logic, it doesn't belong in our club. If it makes sense, fine, why not? We appreciate anything that makes sense. Above logic, out. Then that's what the Jews are started to fight. If a Jewish boy was caught that he was circumcised, he has to kill the baby and kill the parents and anybody who's involved. It was a terrible thing. And so on and other things. Finally, the Greeks went to war. I mean, the Matityahu, the high priest with his 5 sons, and the Maccabees went to war against the Greeks. And it was a war that took a few years. And they won partially the war at that point. They gained control over the temple. They came into the temple and they looked for what? Oil. For oil. They looked to light the menorah. They looked to resume the work of the temple for, I think, a year and a half or so. For a long time, the service in the temple was not taking place. There was an idol in the temple, and so on and on. And they cleaned up the temple. They're looking for oil. They found one small bottle of pure oil that had the stamp of the high priest. What does this mean?
It was nothing.
There is only there is a bottle. They were looking for the purity. What's a bottle of oil if it's pure or not pure? It's not. The whole idea of purity and non-pure is not a logical thing. It's something that's above logic. If you touch it, it becomes impure. I washed, I took a good shower, my finger is clean. Well, what do you want from me? The whole idea of going to the mikveh, the whole idea that after a funeral we have to wash the hand is not a logical thing. It's something above logic. They couldn't handle this. And what the Jewish people looked for, a little bottle of oil. And they found one. And what means when they found one? They found one represents that in every one of us, there is one little bottle of oil that can never become impure. You can impure your mind, you can impure your eyes, you can impure your speech, you can impure your feelings, but there is something deep down that can never become impure. It's always ta'or, always pure. There's one little bottle of the high priest, sealed. Nobody can touch it. No matter how many Greeks come to your soul, to your life, no matter how much you want to be a Greek, or a Hellenist, or whatever, how much you want to assimilate, there is one little bottle of oil that it's there, and it's a matter of just waking this up. And when you find this little bottle of oil, it's sealed. Now they found this bottle of oil, they filled up the menorah, and it was burning. The miracle was it burned for 8 days, right? We all know the story. You know, by Jewish law, if you don't have a pure bottle of oil, you can light the menorah with impure oil. It's kosher. Lighting it with pure oil is a better way to do the mitzvah, but it's kosher. You can do it. If you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. God really made a miracle, not for a necessity. He made this unbelievable miracle for a Idur mitzvah, for something to go out of our way, because he saw that the Jews are so eager to do the mitzvah on a higher level. He went along with them and he made a miracle for them. It wasn't like an impossible thing that you must make the miracle. Now there were 2 miracles on Chanukah. The miracle of winning the war and the miracle of the oil. What everybody knows. What is everybody celebrating?
The oil.
The oil. Isn't it strange? Really, most of the secular watch would say, oh, we should celebrate the miracle of the war. We were so strong. We went and we did and we made. And the logical miracle, the natural miracle, if you want, was a few against the many, the strong, the weak against the strong, but still it was in the world of logic, and it made sense a little bit. This miracle, celebrates only the people who daven every day. They say it in the Amidah, they say Hallel. The miracle that most of the Jewish world is celebrating is the miracle of the oil, the non-logical miracle, the religious miracle, if you want.
Well, this prayer, when you read it, it talks about the God was like, really did everything. The miracle,
what's written in the prayer, it's written about the miracle of the war. The menorah represents the miracle of the oil. That's what I'm saying. How many people pray and how many people light the candles? Very few pray. Most of the Jewish people light candles or eat latkes. It's again the oil. Or donuts. It's all about the oil. Then we see that the miracle that's above logic, that's the miracle that everybody is celebrating. The miracle that makes sense, that naturally Secular people should celebrate. Nobody celebrates. Nobody even remembers that. Nobody even knows about that, most of the people. Because the connection is to the miracle of the oil. Because everyone, the above logic, again, the whole fight of the Greeks was trying to eradicate the idea of above logic connection that we have with God. Whatever makes sense, you do. Whatever doesn't make sense, you don't do. Like the famous story I mentioned many times about this teacher in Russia who walks into the classroom and says, whatever you see, you believe. Whatever you don't see, you don't believe. You see the teacher. It's a teacher. You see the table. You see this. Then one Jewish boy stand up and he says, you see the teacher? Yes, you see him. You know it's there. She wanted to say, you see God? You don't see. Obviously, it's not good. There's no God. And he said, you see this? You see this? Then he says, you see the teacher's brains? You don't, right? Obviously, there is none. then this is what really what the Greeks wanted to do, what the communists did, the Greeks did. And this, basically, there is, when people think, oh, somebody comes up with an idea, he came up with a conclusion that the Torah is not true. The most funny thing about that, anybody who knows history will look at him and says, you chacham, you showed up. This argument we heard already 100 years ago, 500 years ago, and 1,000 years ago, and 1,500 years ago. And we survived all of these chachams, and the Jewish people are still here, and all these chachams disappeared from the face of history. And that's what Chanukah is a holiday celebrating the faith of God in God. The strength that the Jewish people had to hold on to their religion. That's what Chanukah is. The menorah is a symbol of religious freedom. Because the war was, if the Jews were ready to give up on their religion, the Greeks would welcome them. No problem. Come on in, be our guest. It's all about because they didn't want them to observe the religion. Now the Gemara. Now we'll start to read a little bit from inside. What is Chanukah? We have more, yeah. The Gemara reveals. You want to read?
Sure.
The Gemara reveals the origin of the holiday of
The
Hanukkah.
Gemara means the Talmud. Go ahead.
What is the reason for the rabbinic Yom Tov of Hanukkah? On account of which miracle did the rabbis establish it?
And why we made a miracle holiday? You know how many times Jews had miracles? You know how many times we were winning wars? If we would celebrate every time we're winning wars, we would celebrate for no end. If we would mourn for every time we have a tragedy, we would mourn for no end. The Talmud is asking, what are you guys so excited? What is it? What holiday ignited the rabbi's idea to make what miracle to make this holiday? That's a question. Go ahead.
It is as the rabbis taught in a Parsah found in Megillas Ta'anit.
Megillas Ta'anit is a book. It's like almost not a book. It's a list of days that we don't say Tachnun. Tachnun is a prayer for confession that we say every day during the service. In a special day, in a day that's a holiday, a happy day, we don't say it. We are not busy with our sins. We don't confess on days of our happy days. There is a whole list on which days we don't say Tachnun, and we don't do eulogies and so on and on. Then in Megillas Ta'anit, in this, it's called in this book, in this list is written about Hanukkah too. What is written there about Hanukkah? Let's read.
On the 25th of Kislev, the days of Hanukkah commence. They are 8 days in all, on which it is not permitted to eulogize or to fast. For when the
we're not first of all when you do a funeral, it's a problem to do a eulogy on these days because it's a day you have to reduce the level of mourning on these days. And therefore, if in the eulogy they will try, many rabbis will not do a eulogy altogether. There is certain praise you don't say the Ken Maleh Rachamim, and so on. There is things that you don't do because it's a holiday. Okay, and you don't fast by this day. You're not allowed to fast on Shabbat. Let's say somebody wants to fast for his own, to return to God. He wants to atone for his whatever it is, repent. Then on a special day, on Shabbos you're not allowed to fast, on Yom Tov you're not allowed to fast. Then on Hanukkah is also one of the days you're not allowed to fast because it's a happy day. You're not allowed to afflict yourself. Go ahead. What happened on Hanukkah? Yeah.
For when the Syrian Greeks entered the sanctuary, they contaminated all the flasks of oil that were in the sanctuary. And when the royal Hashmonean house gained the upper hand and vanquished them, the Hashmoneans searched the Haichal area and found only one flask of oil that was lying out of sight with the Kohen Gadol's seal still intact.
Okay. Then he says, basically the Gemara says that the reason for this holiday is not the miracle of the war, but the miracle of the oil. Because they made it, they contaminated all the oils. They didn't pour them out. They didn't kill them. They didn't destroy them. They just touched them. What is this business I'm not allowed to touch? What is this thing above logic you're not allowed to touch, you're not allowed to do it? We are touching it. And they found one bottle of oil that was not even moved, was not even touched. By the way the seal was on it, it was no. If somebody would touch it, the seal would fall off. That was a way how they knew for sure that nobody touched it. Okay, and it was. Go ahead.
Okay. Before we get there,
yeah,
the miracle that we have is really kind of a small miracle when you think about it. I mean, it's one flask of oil lasting 8 days. There are a lot bigger miracles.
For example?
Well, there have been a couple of hundred in Jewish history, either rabbinic or biblical or whatever, that could have been celebrated. I mean, much bigger things, everything from multiplying food. I mean, Elisha and Elijah, I mean, there are lots of them. Why are they picking a miracle, kind of what you might consider to be a small miracle?
Because this miracle represents the fight between the Jews and the Greeks.
It's the soul of the Jewish people.
Exactly.
Isn't it the historical importance as opposed to the religious importance of the holiday that makes it what it is?
I mean, I think the historical importance would be more the miracle of the war, the miracle of the oil historically.
Well, and also the notion it's what you're saying, the notion that there's a God and there's an invisible God it led to monotheism flourishing.
It was the fight of the soul of Judaism.
It's also the mirror image.
I think could be that was the first time the Jews were forced to abandon their religion.
To fight on Shabbos, you mean?
No, they shouldn't allow to make a praise. They shouldn't.
Okay.
And before that, religious oppression didn't exist before that. Before that, the Babylonian did not tell the Jews you're not allowed to be Jewish. You started to fight it as you destroy the temple. We are angry with you, we'll kill you. But the idea of Jewish religious oppression, that you're not allowed to be religious, is the first time. That's why it was so important. The rabbis made from this holiday, they wanted to make a clear point. This is the beginning of a long journey that such things will happen. And you better don't give up. That's what it's all about.
It's also the mirror image opposite of Purim, because in Purim we were going to be destroyed. Instead we pray. And on a time where our mind is going to be destroyed, or we fight.
You're right, but the point here is, we have, for example, we came out from Egypt, it was a war against our bodies. They wanted to destroy the Jews, kill the Jews. All the other holidays, if you want, is about our physical survival.
Right.
That was the first time that was a war, a religious war. It was never before a religious war. And the rabbis made a point to make it clear to the generations to come. Nobody should get lost. They don't allow us to do this. Okay, we will not do. What should we do? They will have our history. They say if they don't allow you, you fight it. What do you mean you don't allow? You hold on to it no matter what. That's what it's all about.
And it contained only enough oil to kindle the menorah for 1 day. However, a miracle was performed with this oil. And they kindled the lights of the menorah with it for 8 days, until other ritually pure oil could be obtained.
Why could be obtained? There is two explanations. Mm-hmm. One explanation is that just what the place that they used to produce the oil was 4 days away, traveling from the temple. Then it takes 4 days to go there, 4 days to come back. That took 8 days to bring new oil. The other explanation is it just took a long time to put because the Jews were impure, and then you need 7 days to purify yourself. That after 7 days of purification, then by the 8th day you produce oil. No matter what.
Excuse me, I never heard the 7 days of purification.
Yeah, there is something. If we are under the same roof with a dead body, and we want to later enter the temple, then we need to be sprinkled on us the water of the red heifer,
right?
And it takes a 7-day purification. Okay. Then if you take they went to war. You're doing a war, you touch or you corpse, then therefore they needed a 7-day purification process.
Okay.
That the 7th day and the 8th day they will create the oil. They will have oil after 8 days. That's why it took 8 days. And the Jews didn't think that it's going to take 8 days. They filled up the menorah, and it was burning. And the next day they were lighting it, and it was burning again and again. Then the next year,
Recognizing that the miracle had eternal implications, in the following year, the Hashmonaim and the Sanhedrin established and rendered these 8 days permanent festival days, with respect to recital of Hallel and Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, there you go.
I do it. That's what it's all about. It's all about really Chanukah and Thanksgiving have the same message. It's all about thanking God for miracles. The only difference is that this is 2,200 years old and this is only 150 years old, whatever. But then this is the soul of the holiday. Huh?
Yeah.
Pilgrims
Pilgrims were the 1600s.
Thanksgiving started 1863.
Right.
I'm talking how long we are celebrating it. That's what I was
That's
talking
right.
about.
That's true.
Not when it happened.
Fair enough.
But it's still a miracle. You're right. It happened 400 years ago. Yeah. Then this is the holiday. This is the reason for the holiday is to celebrate and to remember the Jewish people don't give up on their religion, and they more than that, they are ready to give their lives for the religion. That they are ready to give their lives for the survival of themselves. That's not a surprise. Every nation is ready. That they are ready to give their lives for the religion. That was established by the Greeks. And that's the big achievement here. Now we learn how the next piece of the Talmud is how you actually practice the mitzvah. What you're supposed to do.
The Gemara prescribes various levels of performing the mitzvah of kindling the Hanukkah lights. The rabbis taught in the Parsah, the essential commandment of the Hanukkah lights is one light each night for a man and his entire household.
The original commandment, so to speak, what's the minimum? 1 candle for the family, every day 1 candle. Don't take it home, just be learning about it, the original. You continue to do what you do until now. But the original mitzvah, the basic obligation, if you want, is 1 candle per day for the whole family. You would have a menorah of 1 candle, you fulfill the mitzvah. Good enough. The second level.
And those who pursue mitzvahs have 1 light each night for each and every one in their household. And for those who...
Okay, the second level is a candle per person in the family. 4 people in the family, 4 candles. 17 people in the family, 17 candles. As many people in the family, that's how many candles you have. Every day, the same amount of candles, not changing. Then comes the highest level. Mehadrin, mina mehadrin. There is mehadrin, the people who do a little better. Then the people who go all the way, go the extra mile if you want. Interesting enough, only in this mitzvah there is such a thing, the regular law and the extra mile and even more. Why in this mitzvah? Because the whole mitzvah, the whole miracle was an extra mile miracle. Because basically they could light the menorah in the temple with impure oil. They wanted to do it the better way. That's why in this mitzvah there is the better way too. Usually this is the mitzvah and finish. No such thing is in Jewish law. You can do it this way. Here is option A, plan B, plan C. It doesn't work like this. But in this mitzvah we find it more than anywhere. That there is a few levels because the miracle was for the extra mile. That's why God gave us the opportunity also to have extra mile. What is the mehadrin, mina mehadrin, the best of the best? Go ahead. In this there is a 2 opinions. There is a different of opinion between Beit Shammai and Bet Hillel. We all know that there is 350 or something like this 330 argument in the Talmud between Beit Shammai and Bet Hillel. Usually, Bet Shammai are strict, Bet Hillel are more lenient. Here, it's not about strict and lenient. It's not more strict or more lenient. It's how you look at things. What's the argument in Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel?
For those who fervently pursue mitzvahs, Bet Shammai says that on the first day of Hanukkah, one kindles 8 lights, and henceforth continuously decreases the amount. But Bet Hillel says that on the first day, one kindles 1 light, and henceforth continuously increases the amount.
Okay, Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, first in one word, there were two schools of thoughts. There were two famous rabbis, Shammai and Hillel. Shammai was more strict, Hillel was more lenient. Hillel was chesed, kindness. Shammai was gvura, it was more strictness, discipline. And they created two yeshivas, and it became the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. Now the house of Shammai says in this law of Chanukah, you light the first night 8 candles. The second night you light 7 candles. The third night you light 6 candles. You go down until you reach to the 1 candle, and then 0 candles. Makes sense. Bet Hillel says just the opposite. The house of Hillel say you light the first, what we do today. 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles. That Ameadrin min Ameadrin, the best of the best. Now it's an amazing thing. All the Jews practice the mitzvah on the highest level. They don't just do, you would say 90% of the Jews just get away with the basic level, and there's a few tzaddikim who want to do it the best of the best. Every Jew, the normal practice of every Jew, every corner in the world, throughout history, is on the highest level. Because God did it on the highest level, because the whole miracle was about going out on the highest level. Basically, the whole holiday of Hanukkah, the way we practice, is about going the extra mile. We are not, in many mitzvahs people say, I don't need a mezuzah, it costs a face wash. I buy for $20 mezuzah. In many mitzvahs, I don't have the best lulav, I buy this lulav. Comes to Hanukkah, everybody is doing it the best way. And that's an amazing thing. That shows us again our connection that deep down every Jew wants to do the best, every mitzvah. Then there is the argument between Beit Hillel and Bet Shammai.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
When we see references to Beit Hillel and Bet Shammai, isn't it after the death of those two figures, sometime between about the year 10 and about the year 70, when the temple's destroyed? Isn't that the period that we're talking?
Yeah, that was but the main fight started after the rabbis themselves passed away. When they were around, things were under control, as usual.
So it's their disciples?
It's always like this. It's even, I just saw the other day from the Rebbe about the spies, the 12 spies. And it's written, Moses said, Kulam Anoshim, they were the best. They were the best people that Moses chose. What happened later? The Rebbe said, as long as they were around Moses, they were great. They went away from Moses. They came out, who they are, it's not so nice, not so pleasant. That's the same thing happened with Shammai and Hillel. When Shammai and Hillel were around, things are under control. Then everybody starts to run his own agenda, then starts a more argument. That's a normal way. That makes sense, it was after the argument. But could be that this was already, in the time of Shammai and Hillel, was different of opinion, probably. I don't think it started from, but maybe not. I don't know, I cannot tell you for sure. Okay, then what happened? We're going to continue.
The Gemara offers two explanations of the disputes between Beit Hillel and Beit.
The Gemara is trying to find the logic. Why Bet Shammai says 8, 7, 6, 5, and Bet Hillel says 1, 2, 3, 4? What's the logic between them? Okay, go ahead, continue.
Allah said, two Amorim in the West disagree about the interpretation of.
When they say in the West, that's the Babylonian Talmud. When they say in the West, it means Israel. Israel was the west of Babylon, ancient Babylon. Then they say two rabbis in Israel disagreed in the reasons why Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. What the logic of Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel? Go ahead.
To name dispute, and they are Rayos bar Avin and Yeroz.
Yossi bar Avin and Yossi bar Zvida. Both names were called Yossi. Two rabbis with the name Yossi. Okay. One of them said that by Shammai reason for requiring continual decrease from 8 lights to 1 is so that the various kindlings correspond to the number of days yet to come. You light 8 candles that there is 8 days to come. Then you go down, you count down, 7 days to come, 6 days to come. How many days are left? That's what the whole idea of the counting down. You'll start with 8 candles, and I know tomorrow it's only 7 days left of the Hanukkah, 4 days left of it, and so on. Beit Hillel say, go ahead.
And Beit Hillel reason for requiring a continual increase from 1 light to 8 is so that the various kindlings correspond to the number of days already passed.
Okay, then, for example, if, when is another time that we count like this? When we count in Judaism?
The Omer.
The Omer. How we count the Omer?
Increase.
We increase. 1 day to the Omer, 2 days to the Omer, 3 days to the Omer, 4 days, right? We don't count down. 48 days, 47 days, 46 days, 45 days. Why is this? Why we count to the Omer only what up, not down?
Because we're excited towards the moment that we're...
If I'm excited to the moments, I would rather count down.
Like New
Think
Year's.
about that. Huh?
Like New Year.
New Year's. Yeah. When you count towards a vacation, you count down, right? 4 days to the vacation, how you count in school? 3 days of vacation, 2 days of vacation. Why you count up?
Well, wasn't the Omer counting like each day was almost in addition to the next day, like the first day, the second day?
Rising in level.
That's what we are preparing to receive the Torah. How many days are left is not even accounting because nobody knows how many days are left. We only know what we accomplished. 1 day of preparation, 2 days of preparation, 3 days of preparation. What you did is yours. What is left is nothing. The same thing is here. That's what Beis Hillel say. We count how many days we fulfill the mitzvah of Chanukah. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And also 1 day of the miracle, 2 days of the miracle, 3 days of the miracle. That's how many days. When in the original miracle, the first day they knew that the miracle was 1 day. 2 days, when knew the miracle is 2 days. And so on. That was that's Beis Hillel's opinion. And then that's one rabbi says, that's the reason, that's the argument. How many days are left or how many days you fulfill the mitzvah? Then comes another rabbi, the other Yossi, and he said, another reason for the argument, for the dispute between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Want to continue?
Okay. Where are we going here?
And one...
Oh, and one of them said that Beit Shammai's reason for requiring a continual decrease from 8 lights to 1 is so that the various kindlings correspond to the bull sacrifices of the Sukkot festival.
Okay, let's stop right here. What are we talking about? On Sukkot, during the whole holiday, they used to offer 70 bulls, 70 sacrifices. Why 70 sacrifices?
70 nations.
Because because the nations of the world are 70 nations. Why there are 70 nations? Because we read in the Parsha of this week, then the Jewish people, when Jacob came down to Egypt, they came all together, 70 souls, 70 individuals, 70 people came into Egypt. God creates the nations of the world by the number how many Jews went down to Egypt. Then because there were 70 Jews went down to Egypt, that's why there is 70 nations in the world. If you ask me, well, there is 139 nations members in the UN, too bad. There is 70 nations in the world, and that's how Jewish people look at it. I'm finished. And what they if a few of them split it into 3, into 5, that's their problem, not mine. They should they reunite and be 70. Then because of these 70 nations, we used to offer sacrifices in the temple on Sukkot for 70 nations. It means we used to pray for the good of the nations of the world. The Talmud points out that if the nations of the world would know how much good is dependent for them on the temple, not only they wouldn't destroy the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, they would send armies to protect the temple. Then he says, when we offer the sacrifice, the 70 sacrifices, it goes like this. 13 on the first day, 12 on the second day, 11 on the third day, and so on and on. This decreases the number. Then he says, we also, Beis Shammai's opinion said, like in Sukkot, we offer the sacrifice, you go down the number. So too on the menorah, when we light the candles, you go down the number, not up. That was Beis Shammai, the house of Shammai's logic. What's Beis Hillel's logic? Finish, yeah.
Beis Hillel's reason for requiring a continual increase from 1 light to 8 is the principle that in sacred matters we elevate and do not lower the degree of sanctity.
Oh, that's a fundamental concept in Judaism. Ma'alin b'kodesh ve'in moridim. In Judaism, you only go up, not low. You increase. You don't go 8, then 7, then you always increase. You start very little, and you go little by little. You grow up in your spirituality, always higher. Therefore, you see in Jewish history, whenever we started a custom, we don't stop it. Because Ma'alim B'Kodesh, you go up, you don't go backwards. You started a tradition, you don't go back. Even if the situation changed it. For example, something that has to do with Chanukah. The Greeks made a law, outlaw reading the Torah on Shabbat. You were not allowed to take out the Torah and read on Shabbos. But they only outlaw the Bible, the 5 books of Moses, the Torah. What the rabbis did, they looked in the prophets and they found pieces who have a connection with the Parsha, and they replaced from the Tanakh, from the prophets, pieces that replaced the Bible. For example, this week it was Shabbos Chanukah, right? What we read after Torah? We read after Torah about a menorah. There is after Torah in the prophet about a menorah that speaks about Chanukah as a menorah. The next, not this Shabbos, the next Shabbos will be after Torah. We read about Jacob's death in the Bible. Jacob died in Joseph's death. We read in the Haftorah about King David's death, that he was sick and he was old and so on. Then what I mean to say is they replaced it. And then what Hashem helped, as always, the Greeks are gone and disappeared from the face of the earth. We are still around. Now we are allowed to read the Torah. Sure, then we go back to the Torah, forget about the Haftorah. In Judaism, there is no such thing. If God made us add something to our Jewish life, to our rituals, obviously God wanted it should be forever. We are not going backwards ever. And that's true about in our personal life. You always increase, you don't decrease. Like we want in our material life to increase, not to decrease. You want to make more money this year than last year, and you want to have a better car and you want to have better and better and better. So too in our spiritual life, it always goes up. Then that's the logic, that EX says, that's the logic of Beit Hillel. To teach us this concept, Ma'alim B'Kodesh ve'Moridim, you always go, you always climb the ladder. Because when you start to go down, that's bad news. The Gemara relates a story. Go ahead.
The Gemara relates that in practice there was no consensus how to perform the second level of enhancement. Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, there were 2 elders in the city of Sodom. One performed the second level of enhancement in accordance with the ruling of Beis Shammai, and one performed in accordance with the ruling of Beis Hillel. This one gives as a reason for his opinion that a continual decrease is required, the argument that Chanukah lights correspond to the young bull sacrifices of the Sukkot festival. And this other one gives as a reason for his opinion that a continual increase is required, the principle that in sacred matters we elevate and do not lower the degree of sanctity.
Then basically it was an argument that was in Sodom between 2 elders, but now we know what the halacha is. The halacha is like Beit Hillel. Like in almost everything, the halacha is like Beit Hillel.
But this doesn't make sense, is that number one, it says the second level of enhancement. We already know this is the third level of enhancement.
No, the second level of enhancement. There is the basic, and then there is one level of enhancement and a second level of enhancement.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the
No. Yeah.
Third level.
Okay, then now we know how we light the candles. That what we light the candles now, and that everyone is so simple, and every child in preschool learns how to light the candles. That's the highest level, and more than that, there's an amazing lesson behind it. That you always increase in your spirituality, just like the menorah, just like candle. What it was good enough for yesterday, it's not enough for today, and what is enough for today will not be enough for tomorrow. Every time when people used to come to the Rebbe and tell the Rebbe, oh, I did this and this and this, and they thought they were going to get a compliment, the Rebbe used to say, you want me to be happy with that? They expected much more. You have to do, because everyone has to do, if you can reach a certain level, it means you have much more potential. And you have to demand for you cannot compare yourself to somebody else, you cannot compare yourself to yesterday. That was yesterday, that's old news, that's over. Now we have to grow and grow and grow, always growing. Now comes the discussion in the Talmud, where should we put up the menorah? Which place? Where are we supposed to put up the menorah when we light the menorah?
The Gemara now discusses the placement of the Hanukkah lights. The rabbis taught in a Parsah, the requirement is to place the Hanukkah light by the doorway of one's house from the outside. If one lived on an upper floor and had no place in the courtyard to put his Hanukkah light, he should place it in a window that is adjacent to the public domain. Okay, we'll stop right here. There is the mitzvah of Hanukkah, is a very unique mitzvah that doesn't exist anywhere else. It's called Pirsume Nise, to publicize the miracle. Now, this expression, publicizing the miracle, is in other mitzvahs, but in a different meaning. Here is the mitzvah, you have to publicize the miracle for the world, to go outside. Every mitzvah is inside. You don't have the mitzvah to put up a sukkah outside in the front yard that everybody should see it. You don't have a mitzvah to put up put on a talis that people should see it. No mitzvahs. Even the mezuzah is towards the inside. This is the only mitzvah that you need to publicize. It's made to publicize the miracle. It's called Pirsum Nise. That's what the whole purpose of the mitzvah. Now, the Talmud says, where we put it? It says you put it on the door, on your doorpost, outside that people pass by can see it. If you live in a high place or you're in a courtyard, your door is not facing the street, put it on the window, that people can see it on the outside. Make sure that your menorah does not have a back, because if you put it on the window and there's a back, you cannot see the mitzvah. You understand what I'm saying? Then be careful. Don't forget about the mitzvah itself. Okay, and continue. And in time of danger, he should place the light of his on his table, and that is sufficient for him to fulfill the mitzvah.
There were years that was not allowed. For example, during the time in the Persian, by the time of in Persia, I think it was. Then there were times that you were when it was a holiday, other religion holiday. That was at that time you were only allowed to light candles in the churches, in whatever it was, in the house of worship. And nobody was allowed to light candles in the house, so to speak, for celebration. Then when Chanukah happens during this time, and it was dangerous to do it, the rabbi said, just put it on the table, and it's good enough. Basically, publicize the miracle for yourself, to your own family.
Now, today, we don't put it outside. But it's not. We're not in danger any longer.
Then let's continue on 1 more minute.
I think some people still put them outside.
Many people put them outside.
Rabbi, but if they're outside, you can't see them. I thought you were
That's the point. That's why we put it inside.
Okay, but what about all the other menorahs that people light?
The big menorahs?
No. Like my son,
he puts it outside.
He puts one outside, and each kid has their own menorah.
Okay, in this way you have both ways. You're right. You can do both ways. You can have one outside, one inside. Yes, that's a very good idea.
No, they had it on the outside. Of the
house. They have an outside. They have like a glass. They put it inside a box, a glass box. Yeah. In Israel, it became very common to put it outside because, like the field, they can publicize the miracle. It's not scary. The weather. It's between Jews. You're not afraid of. But here he says, in a minute you'll see another point. Another law regarding the menorah.
Another law regarding the placement of the Hanukkah lights, Rabbi said the requirement is to place the Hanukkah light within a tefa of the doorway to one's house. Right by the doorway, basically. By the doorpost. The Gemara asks. And where exactly does it place it? The Gemara reports a dispute in that matter and rules in favor of one side. Rav Aha, the son of Rava, said on the right side of the doorway going into the house. Rav Shmuel from the Babylon town he said on the left, and the law in that Hanukkah light is placed on the left side, so that the Hanukkah light shall be on the left side of one doorway and the mezuzah on the right. Okay, then it was an argument, as usual, between Jews. There is always an argument on the right and the left. I'll tell you, what's the logic on the right?
Because there is always a mitzvah to put things, everything that you do is with your right hand and your right side. Everything in Judaism has to be on the right. Then here should be on the right too. On the other hand, there is already a mezuzah on the right side. And the menorah, then the Talmud says put the menorah on the left side. And when you stand between these two, you are wrapped with mitzvahs. The Jew is wrapped between two mitzvahs. The menorah on the right, the mezuzah on the right, and Ner Chanukah, and the menorah light, the menorah on the left, and then you fulfill the mitzvah. And that's what actually I do in my own house. I don't put it on the window or outside the front door. We put it just by the door. It's a way to publicize the miracle for yourself too.
Rabbi, what's kind of your position? This time of year, there are lights everywhere, as you know. Most of them aren't ours. We've got some neighbors who, one's Christian, married to a Jew, and he puts up the giant blue lights, electric lights, symbolizing Hanukkah, obviously. It's not halachic in any sense. It's not candles. It's not a menorah or anything like that. But actually, is it a good idea to publicize things?
First of all, for publicizing, you can do this. And I would tell you that even according to halacha, to say that a menorah, electric menorah, is not a mitzvah, is a part. What's an electric menorah? Put your finger down. What do you feel? You'll burn yourself, right? Obviously, that's a fire. It's a fire. Fire is fire. They're lighting a menorah. For sure, the right way is to light the candle and all nice and fine. But you cannot say that people light an electric menorah in the right amount that they don't do a mitzvah.
No, it's not even a menorah. It's just, as you see the lights strewn around trees, for
this
Christmas
kind of
time,
lights.
how to use blue lights instead of
you mean blue
lights?
Where in Jewish law, blue light is a Jewish light?
I know there's no blue light law in Judaism.
There is actually, the blue light, I think, represents Gvura.
That makes sense.
And white and yellow light represents, there is white light. There is three colors in a fire. What colors are in a fire usually? Red, green, and blue, right?
Blue and yellow.
Yeah.
No, not four colors. It's three colors.
Red, yellow, blue.
Red, yellow.
Red, blue, and yellow.
Red, blue, and yellow, I think. One of them is Chesed, one of them is Gvura. I think the blue is the Gvura, if I remember correct.
But it makes sense.
Another good idea.
Yeah, but
the blue color in Judaism represents discipline and din. Din means judgments of God. We don't want judgment. We want kindness. Mm-hmm. That's why the blue thread in the tzitzis we don't practice now, because blue represents judgment. Mm-hmm. Then the blue color, I didn't understand the question, but the blue color, we can survive without it.
I'm trying to
see. I wouldn't even know. You wouldn't publicize the miracle to me. I didn't know the blue is a Jewish color.
Well,
Jewish light. Who decided
that's
this?
What the city of Solon gets away with. The city of Solon does that. But anyways, when you put your menorah by the doorway,
stars.
It's right here.
No, you can't see it.
I see it.
You have a door you can see through?
I see it. It's inside the house, not outside the house. It's inside my house.
But where's the public? The public sees it.
First of all, I have to publicize for myself, then for the public. That's why I have a big menorah outside here to publicize the miracle.
The public sees this one.
Exactly, the big one. They see me. I mean, the Chabad who light the menorahs by the door make the big publication of the miracle. Okay, we'll go with the next page. Now that we know where to put up the menorah, we are talking now about which blessing we have to say on the menorah, and the lighting of the candles. Go ahead.
Mara scrutinizes the text of the first blessing. What blessing does one utter when he performs the mitzvah? He blesses, blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah light.
Right, we just translated the blessing. Asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. That God sanctified us with the mitzvah of the kindle of the lighting. Then the Talmud is asking a very good question. Go ahead.
But where in the Torah did he so command us?
Where in the Torah he commanded us? Go ahead, the mitzvah.
The mitzvah of the Hanukkah lights is only a rabbinical one.
It's a rabbinic origin. There was not, Hanukkah came after the Bible was closed, right? then how could we say in the blessing that God commanded us to light the menorah of Hanukkah, light the menorah, light the candles of Hanukkah? God never commanded us. Talmud is answer. Go ahead, continue.
Amoraim argue over which verse, the biblical connection. Rav Avia said that the justification for stating and has commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah light derives from the verse, "You shall not deviate from the word that they, the rabbis, will tell you." Rabbi Nehemiah said, however, that the source is, "Ask your father and he will tell you, your elders, and they will say to you."
There is no mitzvah to light Hanukkah candles in the Torah. Obviously, Hanukkah happened after that. But there is a mitzvah in the Torah to listen to the rabbis. And when the rabbis tell you to do the mitzvah, it's considered a mitzvah that God commanded us to do it. That's the source for Hanukkah and Purim and Hallel and now we say Hallel and Hanukkah and washing the hands before the bread. We say Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim, right? There is no mitzvah in the Bible to wash the hand for the bread before we eat bread. It's a rabbinic mitzvah. And there is more mitzvahs, there is Eruv, all of this, and we say Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvotav, because God commanded us in the Bible to listen to the rabbis of the Sanhedrin, of the rabbis in the time of the Talmud who made a law. Now you can say, if you have to listen to the rabbis, they have to listen to my rabbi? First of all, maybe.
That's what it is.
Maybe. At least of a maybe it's good. But the real answer is that the whole rabbinic law, it's a whole issue in its own. When a rabbinic law becomes a law,
the Jewish people accept.
When the majority of the Jewish people practicing the law, then the law becomes a law, and then you must observe it. Then if the rabbis made a law, and the Jews were doing it, practicing it, now it's a biblical law in the Torah. That the argument with two rabbis is from which verse we go. If you should, from the verse that says you should not deviate from whatever the rabbis tell you, or from the verse that says, "Ask your father and he will tell you you're older and they will say to you." But doesn't make a difference which verse you go. The idea is that you have to listen to the people who give over the Torah from generation to generation. And there is a chain of Jewish tradition. It's called Mesorah, that they gave over the Torah from generation to generation. The name of rabbis, Maimonides brings a whole list of rabbis, of leaders from Moses, all the way to the time of Rav Ashi of the Talmud, that brings he gave over the Torah to this person, and this third person gave over the Torah. There is a chain of leaders that they had the authority, so to speak, who are giving over the Torah from generation to generation. And that's what smicha is. Smicha means you get smicha, you're continuing the chain of Jewish tradition.
That's a text.
But for example, as we all know, the custom not to eat rice on Pesach, that was a custom that the Ashkenazi rabbis made, and the Sephardic rabbis didn't accept that. But for Ashkenazi Jew, he must observe it because that's what his rabbis told them, and he cannot say, "I want to be a Sephardic Jew for Pesach," or "I disagree." Because it's a biblical law that you have to listen to the rabbis. That if the rabbis made this law, now to a point it's even more strict than a regular law, because it says it carries the weight of a negative commandment and a positive commandment together, because the rabbis told you to do it. That's why we can say Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. God commanded us to do what? To listen to the rabbis. And the rabbis told us, lighting the candles on Shabbat. What is lighting candles on Shabbat? It's not written anywhere in the Torah to light candles on Shabbos. It's a mitzvah from the rabbis. As we're going to go to it in a minute. Now we're going to the issue, and another question that the Talmud says. I collected a few pieces, and it's more relevant. Somebody opened it. Can you open the door? Just open the door.
Open it?
Open it because it's hot. Open both ways. The other one is in top.
Yeah, after.
Should we read?
Thank you, please.
Rav Shesis retorted by citing a Parsah. The Torah states, with regard to the daily obligations to kindle the temple menorah outside the curtain of testimony, Aaron shall arrange it. Now, does God need the menorah's light?
Does God? Why? The question is why we need a menorah in the temple altogether. Who needs a menorah? God needs light. God is just too dark inside the temple. Therefore, we needed a menorah to illuminate the temple. Go ahead. Continue the question.
Is it not so that during the entire 40 years that the children of Israel traveled in the wilderness, they traveled only by his light?
By which light? God had a pillar of fire that showed the way, paved the way to the Jewish people every night. Then God needs the menorah? The question is, what's the purpose of the menorah in the temple? That's the question.
We need it.
Oh, let's give him a chance to answer. To the Talmud. To answer.
We need it.
Go ahead, you. Cohen, you know.
Oh. Rather, it is a testimony for all mankind that the divine presence dwells with Israel.
How is this a testimony? Continue.
Rav Shelis continues articulating his challenge by asking, what precisely constitutes this testimony? He answers by noting that while addressing this very question, Rav once stated, this is the western lamp of the temple menorah, into which the Kohen puts an amount of oil equal to the measure put into each of its counterparts and the other lamps. And yet from the western lamp he would kindle the other lamps each evening, and with it, late on the following day, he would conclude preparing the lamps for the next evening's kindling.
Okay, what he says is like this. They used to light the menorah every night, fill up all the candles. Was one candle, soon we'll talk which candle it was, one candle all of them used to burn out in the morning. One candle used to burn by itself until the next evening when they light the candles again, one candle used to burn miraculously. And that was a testimony of a miracle that God stays among the Jewish people. That was a miracle that was going on every day. Which candle? It was the western candle. It's a whole discussion if it's the middle candle or the edge of the menorah, but it doesn't make a difference. From this comes the tradition of an eternal light in a synagogue. Because it was one candle used to burn 24 hours. And actually, when from this candle used to lit the fire for the new candles, then they put it out and clean it up and fill it up again. Every night was again the miracle. It was during the first temple and in the beginning of the second temple. This candle, this miracle used to be almost an indication how good the Jewish people are, how dedicated to God they are. When it was a high priest or was a holy man, a righteous person, then this candle used to light. The candle used to burn miraculously. If the high priest was not so holy, the miracle didn't take place. How God shows himself to show that a testimony that is with us, with a fire, with a candle. Because that's what the neshama is all about. It's all about, what's a candle? The flame always tries to go up. The Jew always tries to go higher, to get closer to God. That's the purpose of the menorah. And that's the purpose even now when we light the candles, is to remember that God is with us. That's what the miracle is all about. Now comes a very interesting question. Very, very interesting question. Go ahead.
Rava said, it is obvious to me that if an impoverished person lacked the funds to purchase oil for kindling both the Sabbath light for his house and a Hanukkah light, purchasing oil for a Sabbath light for his house is preferable on account of the peace it brings to his house.
This is a very important rule. Everybody has to know it. A person has nothing. He has money for one candle. Should he use it Thursday for the first night of Hanukkah? Or should he wait for Friday to light the Shabbat candle? Or even on Friday afternoon, should he light it as a Shabbat? But it's more realistic if it's a day before or a day after. Then the Talmud says the candle lighting of Shabbat is more important because this is made for Shlom Bayit, peace in the home. What means peace in the home? What was peace in the home here? A person comes home Friday night, he sees the house is dark, he cannot light any candle because it's Shabbat already. The house is dark. He goes, he falls on something, trips on something. Who is he blaming? His wife. Starts a fight, right? Then the whole purpose, the number one purpose for lighting candles is to bring shalom bayit. Comes the Talmud and makes a statement. Then when it's a question of a mitzvah or shalom bayit, shalom bayit comes first. This is a mitzvah, shalom bayit here, the lighting candles, but it's a lesson more than just about this mitzvah. It's a lesson in general, that you have to make sure that every mitzvah that you do it in a way of shalom bayit. Not in a way that you're so holy in your own.
So it's just not Saturday then?
What?
It's just not Saturday?
What do you mean?
Peace in the household?
Well, I don't know.
It's only Shabbos, or it's every day of the week?
Are you asking if you have to have peace in the home every day of the week?
You can light the candle on the other
You would like to have peace in the house every day.
If you will have peace in the home on Friday night, there is chance it should be peace in the home on Saturday night too, and on Monday night. But yeah, it's a good suggestion. It's recommended. Friday night it's an obligation. On Monday night it's recommended. Then comes the second question. Go ahead.
It's preferable. The Gemara now turns to a more challenging set of alternatives. Rabbi inquired where the choices between Killing and Chanukah.
You know what? We'll stop right here because it's already 9 o'clock. But what I want to tell you is like this: that the Talmud finishes it in English like this. It says, because the old Torah was brought, Maimonides, when he brings this law, he says the candle lighting of Shabbos is more important because the old Torah was given to bring peace to the world. That it cannot be that the Torah will bring a fight between people, between a couple, between a community, between people. If there is a fight, it's not really the reason for the fight is not the Torah. The reason for the fight are other things who are dressed in the Torah. Yeah, it's a holy fight. You ever saw Jews not fighting a holy fight? I never met not a holy fight. Every fight is so holy and so pure and so... And the biggest fights are the holiest fights. The more holy the fight is, the more good reasons they have, the more religious reasons for the fight is stronger. Then we learn the old Torah was given to make peace, bring peace in the world. Shkoyach. Happy Chanukah to all of you.
Hey, Rabbi.